President Joe Biden has decided that he is going out with a bang. In an op-ed written by President Joe Biden, he rolled out a plan to overhaul the Supreme Court. In that op-ed, President Biden unveiled a set of reform proposals to overhaul the Supreme Court, including term limits for justices and more binding ethics codes. The first proposal in that op-ed, President Joe Biden is calling for no immunity for crimes a former president committed in office, which I believe he's proposing a constitutional amendment. But here's the synopsis. President Biden shares the founders' belief that the president's power is limited, no absolute, and must ultimately reside with the people. He is calling for a constitutional amendment that makes clear no president is above the law or immune from prosecution for crimes committed while in office. This "no one is above the law" amendment will state that the Constitution does not confer any immunity from federal criminal indictment, trial, conviction, or sentencing by virtue or previously serving as president. President Joe Biden's second proposal is term limits for Supreme Court justices. Congress approved term limits for presidents over 75 years ago, and President Biden believes they should do the same for the Supreme Court. The United States is only major constitutional democracy that gives lifetime seats to its high court justices. Term limits would help ensure that the court's membership changes with some regularity, making timing for court nominations more predictable and less arbitrary, and reduce the chance that any single presidency impose undue influence for generations to come. President Biden supports a system in which the president would appoint a justice every 2 years to spend 18 years in active service on the Supreme Court. And President Biden's third proposal is a binding code of conduct for the Supreme Court. President Biden believes that Congress should pass binding, enforceable conduct and ethics rules that requires justices to disclose gifts, refrain from public political activity, and recuse themselves from cases in which they or their spouses have financial or other conflicts of interest. Supreme Court justices should not be exempt from the enforceable code of conduct that applies to every other federal judge. Now, I'm not sure what happens from here, because I recognize that these are only proposals, and some of these proposals will require an act of Congress. And being that Congress is broken at this moment, I don't see some of those things happening. However, if Kamala Harris wins the presidency and we do what we need to do, and that means giving Kamala Harris a Democrat Senate and a Democrat House of Republicans, we can get these proposals passed through Congress. We must vote blue up and down the ticket. We can't just get out to vote for president, which would be Kamala Harris. There are 435 seats up for grabs in Congress. That would be the House of Representatives and the Senate. If we vote in majority Democrat House of Representatives and Senators, it's just a layup from there. It's just a layup from there. We can overhaul this system. Talk about hope. And shout out to Dark Brandon, because that's who made those proposals, not President Biden. Before I head out, Make sure from this point forward, from today through to voting day, that you check your voter registration status, because baby, they are up with the shenanigans. They are playing the games. They are trying to purge eligible voters from the voting rolls. Check your voter registration. I'll see y'all later.